Okay, so this week is all about building rapport. So when you look in your training manual there, look at your steps to the sale. Prospecting, we went over that. We went over letting everybody know who you are, where you work, what you do, and biggest, hopefully everybody wrote this in next to that, letting people know about your non-core brands. You got to continue to do that. It'll smack in your face. You'll be at Christmas and so-and-so knows you work here, but they bought a GMC Yukon. They would have loved to buy from you, but they don't know that you can sell it. All right? You got to continue. You always have to be doing that. Remember me telling you the story about running into people and they hadn't heard of us or they don't know where we're located? We've been there for 70 years. I mean, how much money do we spend every single year in advertising and just brand awareness? And I got to stay on top of it. So should you. You own your own business inside of ours. The meet and greet. If we mess up on the meet and greet, we don't get to the next step of the sale. So we're really working on that, all right? I'd rather you be better at the meet and greet than at presenting figures. We can pick the ball up, okay? We can throw you over the goal line as long as you can just get to the goal line, all right? You might get there and you might be stopped at the 5-yard line. We'll get enough people behind you and we'll freight train that dude in to the end zone, okay? But I need you to get to right there. So make sure that you know the meet and greet. All right, next up, building rapport. So building rapport. Here's what we know about building rapport. There are 3 questions that, and you're going to have to write some of this in because it's not, some of it's in your book, some of it's not. But there are 3 questions. 3 questions that every single customer is going to ask about you. But they won't ask you. They're just doing it mentally. In their head, 3 questions. 3 questions that a customer will ask about you before they'll go forward. 99.9% of them. Now, is there a 1% on the state bid that'll go forward with you just because the number's the lowest? Probably so, but guess what? We train for the majority, not the minority. All right, so 3 questions every single customer will ask you, okay? They're going to ask you this, okay? Do I know you? Do I like you? And do I trust you? Okay, so the reality is when they come into the dealership, there's over 500,000 people in Northwest Arkansas. And I don't really care how many Facebook friends you have because most of them you've never seen since high school, okay? There's only probably 20 of them you even talk to, okay? They still give you a thumbs up and wish you happy birthday, but they hadn't been to your birthday party in 40 years, okay? So anyways, do they know you? Do they like you? Do they trust you? So when you get a customer that comes in, how do they get to know you? The only way is for us to talk about non-car things, all right? Next up, do they like you? I don't mean, are they going to go on vacation with you? I don't mean, are they going to text you every single day or be your best friend? That's not what I'm talking about. I just mean, are you tolerable and are they okay with spending a couple hours with you? That's it. Surface level like you, all right? Surface level like you, all right? And then trust you. But they can't develop, hey, do I trust this person? There's plenty of people that I like, that I do business with, that I like the individual, but I've never gone on a trip with them. They've never been over to my house, okay? We don't communicate regularly, but I still like the person. So you have to have surface level there. You got to be able to put another charm on. I mean, you know what? This Robert Joe guy, I've only spent about 5 minutes with him, but he's a likable guy. You know, you've got to be able to develop that fast. Are they a likable guy? Man, this guy, Matt, he's a likable guy. Or, man, I don't know about this dude. He just seems angry. I don't know that I like him. You know what I mean? They're developing that in their mind. They'll never tell you that. So you got to look at yourself in the mirror. Am I likable? Am I a likable person? The words that come out of my mouth, the way I say it, the way I look, the smile on my face, my posture, the atmosphere that I create in my office out there on the lot. Am I likable? Am I likable? And a great checkup on that, flip 1 page back. See where it says top characteristics of highly successful people? You read through those. That will help you to determine, am I a likable person? Am I a likable person? I will give you one of the most key factors to helping people decide if they like you or not, besides what you look like, what you smell like, and how you present yourself. All right, let's say you've accomplished all that. Let's say you don't stink today, you look presentable, you're smiling, and you're respectful to people. Now, the next thing, the way that you can get somebody on your page as fast as possible to answer these questions is to ask the customer a question. Let's think about this real quick. If you and I have a conversation, and I'm talking the entire time, and you don't get to talk at all, none, 5 minutes, I'm verbally vomiting and just blah, 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 blah the entire time. Do you think that I know anything about you? You're just sitting there listening. You're like, man, will this guy shut up? I just have a couple questions. I just need to know, can I trust this guy so we can go forward with it, okay? If I'm asking you questions and you are talking the entire time, you ever walked away from a conversation with somebody and they were actually intrigued and they cared about you and they asked about your family and where you worked and how long you've been here, and they gave some true interest in you? They actually cared. They took time to find out about you, not for you to listen to them, but they took the time to ask the right questions to know about you, to know your purpose, what you're using this for, how the daily activities look. They truly took the time to ask intentional questions to figure out about you. You walk away going, man, that's a nice guy. Those are really good people. You know what it really was? They were just asking questions instead of talking. They're like, hey Robert, how long have you been in the area? Man, how many kids do you have? Where do you work at? Hey, during the normal base, do you just drive to and from work? Man, what do y'all usually do on the weekends? Extracurricular activities. Where are your kids in school at? Have they always gone to school there? Man, what extracurricular activities you do? Oh man, have you been to this river lately? This river lately? Hey, have you been to this? Have you been to that? You know? Blah, blah, blah. What do you do in the community? You know, do you attend a church? Do you do this? Are you with the PTA? Or are you with any other groups? So on and so forth. So if I'm asking all that stuff, I start grabbing information from a customer, and I actually accomplish two things. One thing I accomplish is this right here. All right? The other thing I accomplish is it goes hand in hand with starting to put together how I am going to do my walk around on a vehicle. Because I'm putting in the back of my mind what Robert's daily activities are and his weekly activities, so I can mold my walk around to talk about how he uses the vehicle, how this is going to be a benefit. I can find his hot buttons, and then I can start building the value of the vehicle to exceed the price. But I'm doing that early on, and I'm establishing this right here, which is building rapport. So there's not and I just realized this, I didn't put a whole sheet in here on building rapport. I should have. It goes hand in hand with the meet and greet. So at what point in time does it go hand in hand with the meet and greet? As soon as we ask the question, what great things are happening to you today? That's the opening for it. So when Robert and I go through the meet and greet and I say, hey Robert, what great things are happening to you today? He said, the sun's shining. Okay, I got to start taking a couple assumption questions to get me going down the path. Because my goal is I want to build rapport with a customer for a minimum of 2 minutes. And I've got to do that before we go on the test drive. I got to do that before we go on the vehicle selection. I've got to do that before we get too far in the process. Now I could not do it, and then I could be like selling through the wall, and it cannot be fun, and I won't enjoy the process. So on, and we've all been there. We've all been there like, man, why won't this customer just let me show them what they need? Why won't this customer just listen for just a second to me so I can really help them enjoy the process? Why won't these people follow my process? They don't know you, like you, or trust you yet. And if they don't trust you, they won't follow your process. If they don't see a benefit to your process, they won't follow your process. So you've got to spend some time deprogramming somebody, because when they come onto the lot, their initial reaction is, hey, I'm just looking. Their initial reaction is you're going to be like the same salesperson that they bought from 3 years ago, and the same one before that 7 years ago, and the same one that everybody complains about from the 70s and the 80s. All right, that took advantage of them, didn't care about them, they weren't there 6 months later. So if you really want to redo somebody's opinion, you've got to spend some time and build some rapport. Because think about the customers that repeats and the referrals. They come back to you. Think about somebody you've already sold. They came back. When they came back, did they follow your process? Absolutely they did. Anything you said, they said, okay, let's do that. You know, when Mark's customer came back to him that had already bought from him, he didn't have to spend a whole lot of time building rapport, did he? He didn't, as long as he did a good job the first time. All right, as long as he did a good job the first time, he asked how the family's been, he asked this and that, and it's already in. And the customer doesn't balk. They come sit down at the office with him, they fill out the needs assessment, and they go right through it. And those are the most pleasurable ones as a sales professional to sell, because I enjoy the process. Because they'll do what I ask them to do, and when they do what I ask them to do, we're not on too much vehicle. When they do what I ask them to do, it actually turns out as a better experience for the customer. Because we know we've got to appraise the vehicle. We know we got to get a payoff. We know we need to get on the right rig. We know we need to do a needs assessment. And when we can do that, we make the experience for the customer unlike anything that they've ever had before. But we've got to take non-repeats and non-referrals and turn them into that type of customer, and we got to do that by building a rapport. So they got to get to know us, like us, and trust us. So what you go through this week is you go through your meet and greet again, but now we're going to start interjecting in some questions. We've got the meet and greet down. So now when Robert asks me what great things are happening today, I'll say, hey, the sun's shining. Robert needs to ask another question. If I say the sun's shining, hey, I'm here and I'm not at work, right? I'm here looking at vehicles. So a pretty good assumption is, hey, do you have the day off? All right, so hey, do you have the day off to look at vehicles today? No, I'm just on my lunch break. There's only two things they can say, yes or no, okay? Either way, I can ask another question. So let's say he says, no, I'm on my lunch break. I could ask him where he works. He says, yes, I do have the day off. I could ask him where he works. I don't care which way he answers because I've got the next question ready. And then when he tells me where he works, guess what the next question is? How long have you worked there? And then when he says, hey, I work for Academy here in Fayetteville, I'm just going to make the assumption, do you live in Fayetteville? Okay? And he can either say yes or no, right? If he says no, what do I ask? Where at Northwest Arkansas do you live? Well, out in Huntsville. What can I ask after that? How long have you lived in Huntsville? Okay? Do your kids go to school in Huntsville? I don't know if he has kids or not. But what's the answer? Yes or no? And he says no, and I'll say, hey, what all do y'all do in Huntsville? Or if he says yes, I'll say, hey, do they go to school out there? Or what ages are they? And then he can answer. I can continue to go down that path, okay? I want to know where he works, how long he's worked there. I want to know where he lives, and I want to know about his family. And then I can start asking things like, hey, walk me through a normal week, this new vehicle. How are you going to use it? Will you take the kids to school? Will you take employees out to lunch? Will you take contractors out? What will you do, okay? My goal is when I ask Robert what great things are happening to him today is to ask more questions. And just know, so you've got to start training your brain to know what question do I ask next, what question do I ask next, and am I building that rapport with that customer? The way I build rapport. Now, it's okay if you relate. If Robert tells me he's from Huntsville, I said, oh, really? I graduated from Huntsville. It's okay to throw in a nugget so that somebody can relate. What's not okay is for me to say, oh man, I graduated in Huntsville. Man, did you see the ball game back in 2001? You remember when we went to state championship? Well, I was the quarterback for that. Do you remember seeing the game? Hey, did you go down to Little Rock with us? And man, do you remember all the guys on the team? Yeah, we just met for our class reunion. That was great. We replayed the game and the championship game. Man, that was great. You know, it really was. I had a great time out in Huntsville. And, you know, really the coaches, oh yeah, you know, that coach, he was a great guy. And man, I've lived out there a long time. And you know where the river is out there? Oh yeah, well, I fish there all the time. I usually use this and that. It's not about me. It's about me relating to Robert, and I want to throw the nugget in there. Hey, I graduated out in Huntsville. He doesn't really care about where I fish, about my winning high school team in 2001. He doesn't. So y'all that think you build rapport, you sell yourself out of it. You get the green light and you go, and then you overshoot the corner. Because there was a green light, and you needed to take off like a rocket, but there was a sharp left-hand turn. And you went straight out in the field. Okay? The customer's still going this way, and I don't know where you're going. So it's okay for me to say, hey, Robert, I'm born and raised out in Huntsville, graduated school there. And then I'm going to say something like, man, it's a nice area, isn't it? How long have you lived there? It needs to be about him. Now, he needs to relate going, hey, this is a guy that is from Huntsville. And he needs to be able to relate to that, but it's got to be about the customer. If you want to build rapport, it's got to be about the customer. It's not about you. Now, it's about me and John being able to relate, so I got to look for something. And John goes, man, I enjoy just spending time with my family on the weekends. I said, well, what do y'all do? And he goes, we hang out in Northwest Arkansas. I said, do y'all do indoor stuff or outdoor stuff? He says outdoor. I might look for just something to relate with him, But then I'm going to let him keep talking about it. He's got to build the rapport. I got to build a rapport with him. He's got to be talking. He's got to know that I'm engaged, that I care about him. So when we role play today, I don't want you to get past the meet and greet. Past what great things are happening to you today. As soon as they say what great things are happening today, whatever it is, I want you to ask a minimum of 3 questions today, okay? Minimum of 3 questions. Try to go for 5. Because our goal is the first 2 minutes. The first 2 minutes is to not talk about the car. The only way we can not talk about the car, because a customer comes on the lot to do what? Okay, Shane's the only one paying attention. So when a customer comes on the lot, they expect to talk about the car. The unfortunate thing is if we talk about the car, we can't build any rapport. If we talk about the car, they can't get to know us, like us, and trust us. And if they don't know us, like us, and trust us, we didn't build rapport, we can't control the process. So we have to deprogram the customer that we're not going to talk about the car right off the bat. I'm not talking about a 45-minute segment. I'm not talking about... Kerry, what's our buddy's name that trained you just to wear the customer out, take them to lunch and everything else? Was it Patrick?
Oh, yeah, Patrick Webb.
Yeah. So back in the day, Patrick Webb trained Kerry Crawford. He said, all you got to do is just wear that customer down. He said, you take them to lunch, you go pick up dry cleaning with them. We're not talking about that type of rapport. That's old school. I know. And we're deprogramming Kerry Crawford to not do that anymore, okay? We're talking about 2 to 3 minutes. All right? We're talking about 2 to 3 minutes of really connecting with the customer to show them that we care about them and we're asking questions, all right? So, as we role play this morning, as soon as you get through what great things are happening to you today, I want you to ask 3, try to go for 5, okay? So, let's break out and role play time.